In this video, I'm going to give you the exact workflow that we use for our clients to produce consistent and reliable results. If you're anything like me, you need a specific and clear set of instructions to follow, otherwise you just won't complete the task. If that sounds like you, then this video may be of some value. If I don't have a specific set of instructions in front of me that I can follow step by step to complete an action, there's a good chance that I'm not going to complete it, especially if it's a task that I have to do on a weekly or monthly basis, something that requires a frequency to it or a cadence, then there's a good chance I won't complete it. And that's essentially why I created these workflows, to make sure that I'm doing things on a consistent basis, because we all know that consistency is the key to getting results. So PPC requires constant attention. If you're not constantly going in, looking at the bids, looking at your search term report, looking at the competition, there's a good chance that you'll fall behind the competition. And that's why I love the workflow so much. The beauty of having a workflow is you can look at these tasks, know exactly what you need to do, you know exactly when you need to be doing them and exactly how often you should be doing them. And eventually it just becomes habitual to the point where it's ingrained within your mental library. So when I first started my PPC career, I was literally all by myself. I never joined an agency. I just decided to sort of take it on as like a freelance thing, and then eventually we evolved into an agency. And all I had prior to this was my experience of working on my own account, so doing my own advertising. And I quickly came to realize that working for yourself versus working on multiple accounts at one time was two completely different animals. So to begin with, I was all over the place. I was doing bid optimizations on one day, then the next day I wouldn't know what to do, then 2 weeks later I'd do bid optimizations again. It was really just a complete mess. Building this workflow so that I had a clear set of instructions to follow and I knew exactly what I needed to do on each day really helped me to produce the consistent results that my clients were after. So let's say, for example, you want to start the gym. New year, new you, New Year's resolution is to get into shape. If you're going to the gym and you don't have a workout routine to follow, you may gain some muscle or you may lose some fat depending on your goals, but you're not going to be it's not going to be consistent, because you're going to be going in one day and you may train a little bit of legs, you may train a little bit of arms, then the next day you train a little bit of abs, a little bit of back. But if you don't have a set of instructions or guidelines to follow, it's going to be very difficult to track your progress. It's going to make your workouts a lot longer because you're unsure of what you need to do. So you're going to spend a lot of time just figuring out what to do, which is not only physically draining, but it's also mentally draining because it requires more cognitive effort to actually know and work out what you're going to be doing for the exact day. So you wouldn't go into the gym and just start working out randomly. Most people anyway would have a set routine that they follow for a number of weeks. So each day they know they've got to go in, they've got to do this exercise, this exercise, this exercise. The next day, exercise B, exercise C, exercise D. And they know each day is for a specific activity that they'll be doing. And then once they've completed it, that's it, they're out the gym, done. And that's sort of how I see PPC. You go into the account, you complete activity A, B, C, and then you come out and then you move on to the next thing. And that's really helped me to be a lot more efficient with my time and also, as I say, get more consistent results. So without rambling on anymore about the importance of having a workflow in place, let's jump into the document that I use now, and I'm going to be showing you the activities that we complete, why we complete them, and how often we complete them. Alright, so now we're in the workflow document. As you can see here, we have the cadence, so we've got weekly and monthly, and that's just essentially how often we're doing these things. We've got the activities, so there are 7 in total, and just a brief description or explanation of why we actually do these. So before we actually dive into the document, I think it's important to draw a distinction between the types of tasks. So in my mind, there are 2 types of tasks. There are one-time tasks and there are maintenance tasks. Now, one-time tasks are the things that you only need to do once. A lot of the effort is front-loaded, meaning it goes into the research or any thought into before going into the activity, whereas the maintenance requires a more systematic approach. So all of these tasks here are maintenance tasks, meaning they need to be done on a regular basis or more than once to maintain. So an example of a one-time task would be doing keyword research to create a core keyword list. So a core keyword list is essentially, some people call it a master keyword list, and it's a list of all of the keywords that are relevant to your product. Now you want to be doing that in the beginning, so you've got all of the keywords that you want to include in your campaigns, but also in your listing as well for SEO purposes. Now maintenance tasks, these are pretty much not, I'd say 95 to 99% of the tasks that you're doing in PPC and in Amazon in general, because most things aren't set and forget on Amazon. You need to constantly be going in and just reevaluating and making iterations based on the results. So these are all maintenance tasks. And yeah, with that being said, let's just jump straight into it. So weekly cadence, we've got bid optimization, we have search term negations and budget optimizations. Monthly cadence, we're looking at keyword research, restructuring campaigns, testing, and filling out trackers. So bid optimization. Amazon is a fast-paced environment, as you know, and there are many known and unknown variables that influence our CPCs. So staying on top of bids and making sure that they fall within the ACOS threshold can make a huge difference to your total sales and profitability. So for that reason, it's a high touch activity. It's something that we want to be doing on a very regular basis. So we personally optimize our bids 1 to 2 times per week. So if you have an account that sells a lot of units per month, then twice per week is recommended. However, if you have products that are slow moving, then once per week should be sufficient. So the reason that we draw a distinction between the high velocity products and low velocity is that usually, if we have low velocity products, optimizing bids twice per week can be a bit of overkill. Now, it does take a while to actually optimize your bids, and I've created a whole nother video on how you can optimize your bids in a systematic and mathematical way. But yeah, if you have a low velocity product, then I would suggest, well, what we do is only once per week, and that's worked out fine for us. So the next thing that we look at on a weekly basis is making search term negations. So not everything can be solved by good bid management. It's essential to ensure that search terms that aren't converting are being negated from your campaigns as well. And that's just to keep all of your campaigns within your reasonable ACOS. So it's important to have a click and spend threshold that once a search term reaches without a sale, you negate. So the threshold that we use is 50% of the average selling price. So for example, if a product sells for $20, then any search term that exceeds $10 in spend without a sale will be negated. Now, you may decide to have a different threshold. It's completely up to you. 50% is our benchmark. Depending on the client's goals, we may set a lower threshold if they want to be more aggressive with optimization. However, if they're looking to scale, we may go a little bit higher with our threshold. So it really is a personal choice to you, but 50% is a good benchmark. So the same principle applies here. High velocity products we can negate twice per week. Low velocity we will only do once per week, which leads us on to budget optimization. So if you're not limiting your advertising spend, this is a crucial activity that you can do to multiple times per week. So in my opinion, you should never limit a performing campaign. If it's a profitable campaign and you can spend more, then spend more. I mean, this sounds pretty obvious when you say it out loud, but what I've noticed auditing accounts is some people have amazing performing campaigns, but they're limiting its spend. And you'll go into the budgets report and you'll see that they're only in stock or in budget for 60%, 70% of the time. Now, we can pretty much immediately increase their sales for that campaign by 50% or more just by increasing the budget. So it's a super low effort, high leverage or high impact activity that you can do. It only takes a few minutes and a few clicks of buttons for you to do that. So it's something that I definitely recommend. I think it's also important to note that when you are increasing the budgets for campaigns, what we've personally noticed is the overall ACOS of the campaign will probably increase by 1 to 2 percentage points. So for example, if you're increasing the budget of a campaign that has a 20% ACOS, it's likely that after a few weeks you're going to notice that the ACOS will go up to about 21 to 22%. So just bear that in mind when you're optimizing or increasing the budgets of campaigns that are very close to your ACOS threshold. So this is a simple task, but it can yield extraordinary results. Monitoring your budget should be done twice per week, And this does sound like overkill, but it's such a quick task to complete, it can easily fit within your daily schedule. So realistically, you could probably do it every single day, because it only takes a couple of minutes just to glance over all of the budgets, making sure that they're in budget for 100% of the time. If they're not and they fall within our ACOS threshold, then just simply increase them. So this leads us on to the lower touch point activities. So these are things that don't require us to go in and monitor and adjust every single week, because it'd probably be overkill, or just due to the nature of the activity, whether it's a difficult task, demands a lot of cognitive effort, or it's a time that it demands a lot of time. There are multiple reasons why they would be low touch, but these are the ones that we consider to be low touch. Meaning we will only complete them on a less frequent basis. So there's keyword research, restructuring campaigns, testing, and filling out trackers. So keyword research, as you know, searches change all the time. Even if you only find another 2 keywords from your research every single month, that's an additional 24 keywords over a year. If they're all generating sales, it's definitely worth it, because those results really compound over time. So this is a lower touch activity. Doing it once per week would probably be overkill. So we do it every 1 to 2 months, depending on how many products the client has. So if you have a lot of products, then doing keyword research once per month is probably a good idea, because you can sort of rotate through all the different products. Now, you don't have to do it for every single product every single month, but you can just cycle through the products. Maybe you do 20% or 20 to 50% one month, then you do the remaining the next month, and then just cycle through that way. But you should already have a core keyword list, which we spoke about a little bit earlier, which is basically the master keyword list. But the keyword research that we do on top of this is incremental or additive. So the next thing that we look at is restructuring campaigns. So you only need to restructure campaigns if they're not following the best practices. For example, if there are too many keywords in a campaign, or maybe you have more than one ad group in a campaign, or mix match types, etc. But it's important to remember that this is a scaling activity, so it can lead to a lot of additional spend if you're doing a lot of restructuring work, and that's why we limit it to once per month, especially if budget is restricted. It's also important to note that if you're not in the scaling phase, you probably don't need to do this, because this is a scaling activity. When you start to segment and restructure campaigns, you will see additional spend and sales. So if you're trying to optimize for profit, then I wouldn't recommend that you do this right now. The next thing that we like to look at is testing. So testing is a pretty big bucket, to be honest. There are loads of things that can fall into it, and I've listed the 3 things that we like to do below. But you should always allocate some time and money towards this activity, especially if you want to be in the top 1% of sellers, which I'm sure you do. So the sweet spot that we found here for testing is once per month. So remember, whenever you start a new experiment, you need to create a hypothesis, test it, analyze the data, and make iterations based on your conclusion. So basically following the scientific method. So here are the 3 things that we like to test. The first one is new campaign types. So if Amazon release a new campaign type, which they always love to do, then we like to test that, see how it's going to perform for different products, and make analysis and conclusions based on that. New placements, again, Amazon's always creating new placements like sponsored brand video top of search. We always like to stay ahead of the curve here and be one of the first people to test this out of the competition, because usually, as is the case with new campaign types as well, you're going to see lower CPCs, and especially if they convert, you're going to have a low ACOS for these new placements and campaign types. So it's important to always be testing new things like this. Even if there aren't any new placements, if you're looking and seeing that you don't have full coverage on all placements, it might be worth testing new ones and just see how it performs. And then the last thing that we like to test is old keywords that we previously turned off. So the reason that we do this is because it may perform well now. Just because it didn't perform well in the past doesn't mean it's not going to perform well now or in the future. So there could be various reasons why you had negative performance. For example, if you were just launching, then you had no or lower reviews. Maybe the pricing was different back then, but there are loads of reasons why it's a good idea to always test old keywords as well. And we've seen good performance for keywords that were previously turned off, so it's worth definitely doing. Now, the last thing that we like to do is filling out trackers. So what can be measured can be improved. Now, I know it's a bit trite, but it's definitely accurate. If you're not tracking your metrics, how do you know if what you're doing is having a positive or negative impact on your account? Now, this one for me is very, very important. If you're not tracking the data and tracking your metrics, you're basically walking around in the dark. Tracking the metrics is essentially having a flashlight where you can actually see where you're going. That's the way I see it. So we use 3 different trackers to monitor things. The first one is a bi-weekly report. So this contains our KPIs. So for example, conversion rates, click-through rates, impressions, total sales, PPC versus organic, ACARs, total ACARs, those types of metrics. And the reason we do it on a bi-weekly basis is because it gives us shorter feedback loops. So if we were only monitoring it on a monthly basis, that means that we can make 12 iterations per year. Whereas if we're doing it bi-weekly, that's giving us 26 iterations per year, because obviously there's 52 weeks in the month, in the year. So that's given us many, many more iterations that we can make. We can get to where we need to be a lot faster. Now, we also complete a monthly report, and this just contains the high level metrics, best performing campaigns and best performing products. So we can identify what's working really well and allocate more spend towards those performing campaigns or products. And then the last thing that we like to track is new experiments. So this will include the date of the experiment, like when we decided to test it. We include the hypothesis, so what we predict is going to happen, and then the results and the conclusion. But this must be action oriented. There's no point in running tests if you're not going to do anything with the new knowledge. So it's super important that when you're running tests, once you've made a conclusion, then you iterate based on that conclusion. Otherwise, there's no point in you running the test in the first place. So yeah, that's pretty much everything for this document. This contains the 7 activities that we like to complete, and it shows you exactly how often we like to do it, why we actually do it, and then what they are. So I hope you found this valuable. So yeah, that's everything for the video. I hope you took some value from it, and I hope that now you've got a workflow that you can use that's worked for us for many years. Now you can implement that into your business, and that's going to produce the consistent and reliable results that you're after. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about what we do and all the systems that we've collected, built and curated over years of experience, trial and error, then click the link below. Full transparency, it is going to direct you to a landing page where I will be trying to sell you something. So if you don't want to be sold, then simply just don't click the video. But yeah, that's everything for the video. I hope you took some value from it. If there's anything that you need clarifying, just simply leave a comment. If there's anything that you'd like me to create a new video on, again, just leave a comment. And if you did take some value from it, please consider subscribing. But yeah, thank you for staying to the end. I hope you have an amazing day. Take care.